The Indians who remained hid, or they lied about their race. If they could pass for Caucasian, or if they could pass for black, they took on another ethnic identity. But when they did that, they lost their culture, their culture, their culture, their culture. But when they did that, they lost their culture. They had to hide and pretend. So now, today, people get really upset and say, well, you're not really Indian. Well, yes, they are. They had to lie about who they were. They lost, for lack of a better word, their public identity.
Directly, that happened to my people I knew.
I'd love to hear everything, because guess what? We don't get to hear. It's hidden. Even like our truth, the fact that African Americans were in America before the Pilgrims. Even like our truth, the fact that African Americans were in America before the Pilgrims. That truth is hidden. That we are actually the Native American. The Native American. The Native American.
The only way the Narragansetts could participate in elections was by identifying themselves as African Americans. The only way the Narragansetts could participate in elections was by identifying themselves as African Americans. Charles Ernest Hazard confronted officials who enforced this practice. His brother, Joseph, one of the oldest members of the Narragansett Nation, recalls the moment.
Indians couldn't vote, so he went up to the State House and he says, it's on the charter that the Indians can't vote. And he says, you're voting, ain't you? And he says, no. He says, I consider myself a Narragansett Indian. If I vote, I'm voting under Negroes could vote, but not an Indian. And he said, I consider myself a Narragansett, not a black, so I'd like to have that changed. So they did.
Let's just change the name as much as possible to throw you all off so you really don't know what's going on. Let's keep switching the identity to hide the people. Why don't we just keep renaming you? Are you Negro? Oh, no, you're not Negro. No, you're colored. No, you're not colored. You're African American. And this is what they name you. The slavers name you this. Because I know a white guy who grew up in South Africa, and he now lives in America. He is an African American, and more African American than most. Do you see how African American is a misnomer? It's a misnomer. Don't check that box. It's a title given to blacks by democratic slavers. Okay? Let's be real. They want you to check the box, just like they want the Anglo-Saxon to check the Caucasian box. It's not true.
Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Just like they're saying, this black guy got beat to death in Memphis, and by these racist cops. Racist cops, huh? All the cops were black. But now it comes out that, the guy was screwing around with one of the cops' ex-wives or ex-girlfriends or something like that. It's like, but when they find out that these counties and especially out in California and everything, they have gangs within these law enforcement groups. And they go around and, because who's going to second guess them? And you wonder why there's, over 60% of the prison population is black. I'm not saying African American because they're not African American. They're the Aboriginals. They were here.
No such thing.
Because they were the true Native Americans. They're the copper colored race. Look up Dane Calloway and watch his shows. That man, I mean, Dane Calloway on YouTube. Oh my God. I mean, he is fucking beyond brilliant. The research he does, whoo, he goes way deep into this shit. And when you start realizing, it's like, what they, because you'll have people out there saying, oh, well, it didn't happen to me or this or that. It's like, if it did happen to you, we should fucking look at everything and think, you know what? That happened to us. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter what skin color you are, what fucking, I don't care if you have, whatever. If you're a human being, they did it to us.
Everything we've been taught in the American education system is all a lie. Yes, Native Americans weren't the original people of this land. We actually took it from black people. Everything we've been taught in the American education system is all a lie. Yes, Native Americans weren't the original people of this land. We actually took it from black people.
So it feels like this entire COVID, which we know is just a big lie, this whole thing for the last 2 years, really, is it fair to say, Santos, before you go, that this never would have happened if we would have been just more awake and knew where we were? And this, so their ploy so far has played out. They were able to pull off this COVID thing because we've been programmed for so long. Right?
Yes, brother.
Yeah.
Yep, they did a mud flood. They did some plagues. They did it to the Chinese with opium. They did it to the Australians. They did it to the American Indians with smallpox.
Yep.
They just go into a country, plague the whole place out, and then take over their buildings. New York was already there for thousands of years. San Francisco was there for thousands of years. Los Angeles was there for thousands of years. They were built by the indigenous people who were black and Indians as well.
Whoa.
The black people, they weren't brought over by slaves. They are the original owners of America.
Wow.
Black people, African Americans. They don't come from Africa. They were already here. And Indians as well.
Whoa.
The black people, they weren't brought over by slaves. They are the original owners of America. Black people, African Americans. They don't come from Africa. They were already here, and they plagued them out, and they stole the Smithsonian Institute, which is Jesuit controlled, stole their knowledge, stole their history, and now we're just left wondering who we are, where we come from, where we're going. We don't know anything.
Wow.
Because they did a catastrophe on this earth just only a few hundred years ago.
This is very important, what we're fighting for, because I'm tired, I'm really, really tired of the manipulation. They manipulate our history books. The history books are not true, it's a lie. The history books are lying. The history books are lying. You need to know that. You must know that.
Dane, I'm with motherfucking Coolio right now.
Dane, I tried to reach out to you several times. I support you, bro. I think you one of the most important black men in America, bro. I think you need to be protected, guarded. You're a treasure.
He just fucking said, you know what? You're not an African. You're a Native American. Yeah. He said this, and I asked him. I said, "Do you know Dane Calloway?" And he said, "Yes."
Of course I do.
Of course he does.
I knew this. I knew this already. I knew from my grandparents. My grandparents were full blood Native on my father's side, and then my mother's grandfather was my great grandfather. My mother's grandfather is full blood Chata.
Yeah.
Not Choctaw, Chata. I know the right pronunciation, and I've been trying to tell niggas all the time what they are, that they need you. You know what I'm saying? We the melanated Neezy from Turtle Island. I know where I'm from.
Turtle Island.
I know where I'm from, brother. I'm trying to spread the word. Motherfuckers listen, but they don't give a fuck. And that's the shit that the white man, that's that eugenic shit. You know, they didn't instill that shit in our people so bad that they don't want to think different. You know what I mean? I support you though, bro.
We support you.
I support you, bro. And, you know, whatever you need. I got soldiers out here too, ready to ride. And they ready to put their money together too. I got niggas that's ready to go buy 1,000 acres.
That part.
And
start a fucking city.
Exactly.
That's what I always be talking about.
Who are you? You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history?
Plecker and his friends convinced the Virginia legislature to adopt very restrictive legislation in 1924. It's called the Racial Integrity Act. With this legislation, it was decreed that there were only two possible categories. One is white, which means a person, you check that you're white if you have white ancestry, Caucasian ancestry, and absolutely nothing else. The other category is everybody else, and that's colored. So this was very hard on Virginia's indigenous community because in a sense it wipes away their identity.
What culture do you consider yourself a part of?
I am Cherokee Native American, born here in Virginia. I have no African heritage whatsoever and no African relatives. I am all Cherokee Indian.
How come?
You probably are too.
Well, why do you say that?
Because the Indian is black, actually. It's the same people that Columbus met when he got off the boat. We are not African. This is Richmond, Virginia, where the first 20 slaves landed. There's no record of any other slaves landing here. Those 20 Africans that landed here were on a boat that was hijacked by Portuguese. The real black slaves here were Portuguese. Most of the slaves in this country were actually white, not black. My people owned slaves. We weren't slave owners. 96% of the southern slaves were owned by the 5 tribes of the Lakota. I am Cherokee, the largest of the 5 tribes.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
10-4. You have a good one.
I'm just here to make you think.